I don't know if you want to come talk about a few things or not. Well, we'll take this time. This is Patrick. I'll let Patrick introduce himself, but Patrick Van Haren with Microbial Earth, and he can talk a little about his, and then we'll have Clark Berkey come up and might have some ideas to add into this whole sustainability talk.
Well, thanks everyone for the introduction today. I spoke after Michelle at the Renewable Energy Roundup, and at that event I was speaking more on water. How do we capture more of the water in our soils? Our perspective, Microbial Earth means, how many of you have seen those pictures of home security systems where you have the electrons covering all of your house? And they say you're going to be safe forever because nothing can touch. Our vision of the world is where all of your trees, your plants, your soil is got a layer of microbes over everything. And that does a lot of great things for you. And so all of our work is focused on how do we get the role of those microbes working in our backyards. And that saves you water, up to 50% water we can save in 3 years' time. It helps you capture more of your rainwater. But it also increases the flavor, the nutrient density of your foods, your eggs. So chickens are a great way to do that, and I commend you all for having chickens, you're interested in chickens. I've had up to 25 broilers and hens at one time on my property in downtown Austin. If I didn't have 2 kids I was raising right now, I'd probably have more chickens. And I think my biggest challenge right now is making sure my 3-year-old doesn't get too aggressive with them. He likes to show them off, and well, you can imagine. So our business is focused on basically 3 areas. One is how to build up your soil, compost. 2 is how to break down your compost, so compost systems. And so it becomes a circle that way. And then the third thing we do is an area called probiotics, which is just a different set of microbes that we use in a lot of our products. You can buy them for human consumption. You can use them to break down pet waste. You can use them to preserve or pickle food scraps or break down compost faster. They're a very easy to replicate set of microbes we can use all around our yards. Our biggest product is compost tea. And so we did a lot of study on compost and how to make the best compost in Texas. And if you can find something that's better, please come and show it to me. But we try to have something that's probably 8 times better, 10 times better than the average compost that you'll find from most vendors. So we very much look at, we don't take any tipping fees with our stuff. We try to have the purest ingredients possible. And then we just get massive amounts of microbes going in there to help eat everything. And so what happens in a great compost is you get all the excrements, the slimes, the manures from all these microbes running through there. They're dead bodies. And they all have a positive charge. And we put in fine micronized clay. And that has a negative charge. And we put in this azomite product, which is minerals and trace elements. And all those slimes, they all come together around that clay, because that's negative, everything else is positive, and they bind. And it's like making little asteroids. Those hold 4 times their weight in water and last 12 times longer in your soil, because there's got all these little pockets in there, and every time there's another layer of slime, it fits on there in an odd way and has all those little holes in there, and that traps the water. So that's the holy grail of soil. It's called humus or humified compost, and that's what we try to produce. So when it comes back to the recipe for compost, we do a lot of formulations and recipes, and she's exactly right. It's 29 to 1. Carbon, pure carbon to pure nitrogen. So now a lot of your food is going to have about 6% nitrogen, maybe 2% carbon. So you got to factor all that in and moisture. And so I'm going to throw out an alternative recipe idea to you, and that is 4 pails of dead leaves or grass to 1 pail of food scraps. That's about the target ratio you want in your tumblers or any compost system. We've done a lot of research. I've traveled up to Illinois, and I've taken advanced compost classes, stuff that just regular compost yards don't even want to touch. We do things that are crazy. We buy all of our ingredients, which most compost yards, they take money for taking your ingredients. We don't touch that because we want to get the maximum microbe activity. We treat our compost bins like incubators. And the hardest part about composting here is nothing breaks down until it's 50% moisture. Okay? So if you squeeze it, you can get a drop or maybe 2 of moisture coming out of that compost. If you can't, it's too dry. And it's like trying to get a 2x4 to fall apart. If you get it soaked with water, it'll start bowing and breaking and everything. If it's perfectly dry, it doesn't break down. Microbes can't break it down until it's 50% moisture at the molecular level. When that happens, then they start releasing all that carbon in there, and it matches with the nitrogen real easy. So get it that way. Now the real problem here is, a lot of this work, Rodale, he's up in Pennsylvania. All these other guys, up in Oregon. They get 1-to-1 ratios of rainfall to evaporation. Here, we evaporate 3 times more moisture than we get in rainfall. So now you're trying to get to 50%, and yet you're evaporating all your water all the time in the dry seasons. So putting on covers on your compost and treating it like an incubator, keeping all that moisture in there and not letting it go out is your biggest job. Yeah? And then turning it. We religiously turn our compost, not because it gets too hot. We don't actually let it get that hot, but because we want to get the CO2 out and get more oxygen in. So how many of you understand the terms aerobic and anaerobic? Okay. Anaerobic means like alcohol. Alcohol production is anaerobic. That is not good for these plants. They don't like that. They like aerobic. And so you want to get maximum amount of aerobic microbes in your compost. And to do that, you got to get the CO2 out. And that's why we turn our compost pretty frequently compared to other places. And that gets the population up higher and gets you more of this humus and how you make it. From there, everything starts to go on its own. Yep.
Can I ask you on this whole cycle, other things I know some other products you have, but can you talk a little about the sustainability loop, like when you take things and give it to, say, a biopod or something else, and how that turns into food and nutrients back for the chickens?
Right. So that's the core of the cycle. So steps up from that are like worms. And then another step we really like is the black soldier flies. And we have one of these pods there. And one of the interesting things we did was we put this inside a chicken tractor. And a chicken tractor is basically a 4-foot by 8-foot box, 4 feet tall, with fencing all around it, and a lid, a ceiling. And then we put layer boxes in, a roosting bar, and door and wheels. And if you imagine a school with a big yard, you could see grades, different grades, sort of pushing these around in a race around the yard. But your chickens are then just dropping all the food everywhere, or their droppings. You put one of these boxes in the front, and you can put all your food scraps in there, and the soldier flies will eat all of that. And our friends Berkey here, they have mealworms, which is something similar. And chickens love these things. And the worms, they will grow on all of your food. There's some pictures we have on the website, links to eating 2 dead fish in a tray, 5,000 of these grubs. And in 6 hours, the one was stripped right down to its bones. And in 18 hours, the second one was totally gone, including the skin and everything. All you saw was the skeleton there. They're voracious eaters, like little piranha. And when they're mature, they want to get out of the wet food scraps area, so they climb a ramp. And up this ramp they go. And in this design, there's a box there to catch them. But what we did is we took the box away and we just let them fall out the hole where the chickens were waiting for. And so you're putting your food scraps in on one end, and then you go walking around the back end, you pull out the eggs on the other. So it's a great little factory. And so you get the droppings that are fertilizing your soil, you get the tea, the nutrient tea out of the back of this box, which is all the liquid material. And that's a great tool for feeding your plants and your soil. It's a nutrient tea. And then you get the grubs coming out yet too. A few tricks with it, but it works really well in this area. We're doing it on large scale, and we hope to do something that'll feed about 18,000 chickens a year, raising eggs, just out of taking food scraps from residences and apartments and taking them to a farm where we're going to, I was an animal farmer, so my next crop of animals is going to be soldier flies. Just and we sell the chickens, all these grubs as chicken feed. So that's our 4 systems. We also do the bokashi system. So if you're only like 1 or 2 people to a household, and you don't want to get into a chicken tractor per se, or that work, or the grubs, we have systems that are much more efficient than the conventional composting idea. And 90% of our customers buy those. We have azomite here, and I've promised a bag of that azomite later for the raffle. Azomite is the A to Z of minerals and trace elements.